Luis Torrego, 7611 Center Bay Drive. There is a lot of animosity in the city, and when you come here, I want to try to be like as neutral as possible, but I want to express also my opinion on what's going on in the city. What happened with the firing of the city lawyer, I think you were in your rights, you voted, and you had the right to do it. Now, the way you did it, in my opinion, it wasn't the right one. It's very interesting to see the person that was here before explaining about this technology that is very important for the city. And he spent like 5 minutes or 10 minutes talking about this thing. You guys didn't say anything about firing the city attorney, didn't explain it to us, or at least that's the way we feel about it. And the mayor said it's pretty clear. What you said is that you lost trust on the city manager, on the city attorney, and that's okay. But we want to know why. And I think that we deserve to know why. And you explain yourself and yourselves. And I believe we deserve better than that. Saying that, there is the rumor that you're planning to do the same thing with the city manager. I think if you do that the same way at night, without anybody around here, it would be, unheard of. You will take the city to a different level. He's doing a good job. Under very difficult circumstances, I believe he has the support of many, many people in the city. And I believe that if you lost trust on him and you're thinking about firing him, that you really bring it, explain it, and really give us support of your reasoning. Because we deserve to know. Okay? So that's the only thing I want to know. That's the only thing I want to say. And I hope that everybody trying to treat each other with respect. But also I believe that you guys have to at least explain your decisions as much as this person was explaining this fabulous technology. Thank you.
Is Dr. Paul Norris?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Paul Norris. I reside at 1690 South Treasure Drive. And I wanted to thank you all for the job that you've done for this village. You know, I've lived here about 20 plus years, and I realize that sometimes your job is thankless, it's not recognized, including yours, Frank, and welcome new village attorney. But I also want to say everyone knows behind every good commission is an even better lady, and I want to thank Yvonne for all she's done. She interacts on some of the committees that I serve. So with that, thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Mr. Al Blake?
Al Blake, 7601 Coquina Drive, North Bay Island. Good evening to the mayor, vice mayor, commissioners. Welcome to Mr. Powell, certainly to Frank Rollison, and Dr. Paul stole my thunder about praising Yvonne Hamilton. She's just a dream, and so happy, we're so glad to have her. I really was planning to spend the whole 3 minutes on what occurred last meeting, but I heard the mayor mention the fact about how the opinion of our city attorney was so terrible that Eddie Lim, our vice mayor, had to go to the ethics division to talk about something that was almost a joke. I was there with him. I can tell you, I honestly will tell you. They had to give him a letter because they couldn't do anything else with it. They looked at it and it was a joke. I'm wondering who turned Eddie Lim in for bringing up a motion that the city has been doing for the last 35 years. 35 years there's been a relationship between the Optimist Club and the city of North Bay Village. At times, all members were optimists. Always, in order to get the money into the budget, there was a motion made by somebody to put X amount of dollars in the budget to work together with the Optimist Club. The last 2 years or 4 years, we've been doing the information book for the city, so the city didn't have to do their own. What Eddie Lim did was what we've done for 35 years, and I told the board that. They didn't know what to do. I'll tell you the truth. They really didn't know what to do. And shame on any of you if you turned him in as that as a violation. What a joke. Now, I was on the commission for 15 years as a vice mayor and a commissioner. During those 15 years, we had occasion to remove the city manager one time, and to remove the city attorney one time. And what we did was 4 things. We advertised it so that there would be a discussion as to what the reasons would be. We certainly did it with a full commission. We always discussed in front of everybody as to the reasons that this was being done. And then we didn't do it like in the dead of night. We did it with the people who were here and everybody understood it. And you know what? This commission, the 3 of you, failed on all 4 points. You didn't do one of those. You didn't advertise it, you didn't discuss it, and Madam Mayor, I have to take exception to what you said concerning read the minutes you said. I saw the whole tape. I heard you make a motion and stated that the reason you thought he should be removed is because he gave a bad decision to Vice Mayor Eddie Lim, who incidentally wasn't here. And I've never heard of a commission getting rid of any major employee without the full commission. That's unbelievable. Then number 2, I heard Commissioner Jackson say, I'll second the motion for reasons of discussion. Great. Then the mayor says, okay. It was seconded by you, and then the mayor says, okay, open for discussion. Commissioner Jackson said, 0. Mayor said, 0. Commissioner Alvarez said, 0. Unfortunately, Eddie Lim was not here, who you made the whole story about. And then Commissioner Doug Hornsby, he just was shocked. And I was so happy to hear at least the city attorney say that the mayor and the Commissioner Alvarez were people of interest in this extortion case. I do ask you very kindly, please, you've heard this tonight, you're going to hear it again. Why was there no comments by you, Commissioner Jackson, after you said you opened for discussion? Why were there no comments from you, Commissioner Alvarez, when you voted yes real quickly? Why wasn't it agended so people would know that you had a problem? What examples could you give people to say why you were doing it? What's your experience with the city attorney all the time? And more important than that, can all 3 of you that honestly say that you never discussed this item with any commissioner before you showed up that night? I will say one thing quickly. I have been in touch with the Commissioner of Ethics. I've been in touch with the State's Attorney's Office. This is not a threat. It's just to find out what we could do. And when they heard about it, they absolutely said, doesn't sound good, smells. And you know what? We're going to proceed with that action if we can't find out exactly how this all occurred. Because I can't imagine how Commissioner Jackson and Commissioner Alvarez sat here that night, out of the blue, the mayor makes a motion to get rid of one of our important employees, and you said nothing, but quickly voted, yes, yes, yes. That's unheard of. In my 15 years, we never would have even thought of that. I mean, I was so happy when this commission took office. It's an embarrassment. If you do things, do it you know what? They say the Sunshine Law, the sunshine was hiding the day you guys met.
Your name and address for the
My
record.
name is Raul Toro. I live in 7536 Hispanola Avenue. By the way, let me explain to you. You are a very good speaker. Let me tell you.
Can you talk on the microphone?
Let me explain to you and the other guy go every day in front of my house room how I feel about everything. I feel proud of this guy, this mayor, and Andrea Jackson. You know why? Because every time I am here, look at me like I am going from another planet. I come from Cuba, and now I am citizen of the United States, the more powerful country in the world and the more free country in the world. Now I can talk. In my country, I talk like that. I go to jail. I almost go to jail in my country. I feel proud of these 3 guys. Because that guy looked at me like I look like a roach. And he put his neck red. And that moment I understand what that means, the red neck guys. Because he looked at me like I'm nothing. Let me explain to you. Every time our lawyer talk, defend manager Frank, defend Mr. Lee position, your position are really, really bad. And Mr. Hobson, is something wrong in this place. I believe there's something wrong in this place. Okay? We are in national TV because of the lawyer, our lawyer, because he don't do his job. Okay? He don't do his job. I am here many times to 2 o'clock in the morning to put it down the taxes. $330,000 in last meeting, we put it down. I pay less taxes this year. Okay? We manage the money that we are rich. We are a lot of people here receive Social Security, even can't pay his house and the taxes. Okay? I feel really proud of these three two guys. You can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. But I have the right to fire the lawyer and the managers. It's if they want. Okay? Like if we fired the Miami-Dade mayor, we put in the street with the people, with the power of the people. Maybe I don't agree with you, maybe no, I don't agree with you, but I love this country. They gave me everything I have. Every time I saw a crap like this, I'm going to stand out because I love my country, because I don't have the courage to fight for my country. Okay? That's my opinion here. And Mr. Lee, sometimes take the power of the people, of the neighbors. Don't fight against us. Don't fight against us. Okay? To put the city by $50,000 to give it to the city by for what? We have the bicycle free now. Okay? Don't expect our money like it. We are rich. We are not rich.
Mr. Toro? Mr. Toro?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Is 3 minutes for him? Thank you. Mr. Tim Dennis? No, this is good and welfare. Mr. Attorney, could you explain to the Vice Mayor the rules on good and welfare? There's good and welfare for the residents to speak. We don't speak, we don't ask questions. Can you explain that to him?
I think you just did that.
Thank you. Mr. Dennis, go ahead.
Tim Dennis, 7910 Harbor Island Drive. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the commission, and staff. There are whispers in this community regarding the removal of the city manager by certain members of this board. If this would occur, it would not only be a travesty, but would be a tremendous blow to the future of this city. You have, or should have had, read my letter of endorsement for the manager. His professionalism, demeanor, accessibility is not seen anywhere in Dade County. And I can say throughout all the cities that I've worked in, you don't see that from a city manager anywhere. I believe that any thought of removal would seem to be a personal vendetta should this commission seek his removal. And I would think that a Sunshine Law violation investigation or other investigation be put in motion regarding any removal of the city manager by this board. Thank you.
Mr. Charbonne? I'd like to recognize ex-Commissioner Charbonne.
Good evening, for the record, Richard Charbonne, 7601 Center Valley Drive, not to be confused with Al Blake at 7601 Coquina Drive. Good evening. At the last meeting, usurping the fact that no one was left in the audience, the mayor made a motion to terminate the employment of the village attorney. Said motion was seconded for discussion by Commissioner Jackson. Immediately, it went to a vote and there was no discussion. Voting in favor of the motion was the mayor, Commissioner Jackson, and Alvarez. I am filing a formal complaint against the three of you for violating Section 3.08 of the North Bay Village Charter. It is the section titled Ordinances and Resolutions. A resolution, such as the one introduced, means an expression of the village commission concerning matters of administration. Each ordinance and resolution shall be introduced by a member of the commission or the village manager, village attorney, or village clerk, so long as the information is provided within 3 business days prior to the scheduled meeting in writing, and shall embrace but one subject and matters properly connected therewith. That's the language of the charter. There was no notice given of said item being added to the agenda, and you even went as far as not bringing it up as an addition or deletion at its proper time. The termination of the village attorney without any cause given cannot and should not take place as an emergency resolution, as his continuing of employment would not have hindered the village. You are in breach of the North Bay Village Charter, which governs the village, and with your actions, you have also been a party to the wrongful termination of a village employee. To avoid any litigious process, I recommend you reconsider your actions and rehire Mr. Robert Switkus as the village attorney. And if you have a reason to terminate his contract, you do it in an open forum with proper notification of the residents. You 3 have failed me once again. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Barricker?
Kevin Barricker, still at 7520 Hispaniola Avenue. Couple of points. The mayor was referring to the Commission on Ethics complaint against Eddie Lim. That's 1729. I think it's very interesting you use that as your reason for firing Mr. Switkus, since the mayor was the one who actually put that complaint out. There were 2 more, 1730 and 1731. They were one against Robert Switkus and Dr. Hornsby, complaining of conspiracy, and 1731, which was against Mr. Rollison and Mr. Lim, accusing them of lying in last October's meeting. The Commission on Ethics found both of these to be without probable cause and dismissed them. It's interesting that you're using that with the Commission on Ethics. Well, it's not so much interesting as it is just weird. But I want to remind you of something. I just want to read a quick quote. There is a lack of sincere leadership at North Bay Village. They make campaign promises to the community and attain their votes, but afterwards any sound communication efforts between them and the residents cease. Lack of agreement amongst leaders of the community and no strong sense of unity take the public's interest away from them, and thus hampers the development and the business activities in your area. People on the dais are fighting with each other for power. Almost no good and democratic leadership exists in North Bay Village. That's a quote from the Barrie Community Survey in 2014, which was sponsored by the dais, to look at what it is the residents wanted and needed out of North Bay Village. The mayor initially praised this survey as being our marching orders, if I remember correctly, and then, since she had not read it, when that quote was pointed out to her, it was completely disowned. But this has been going on for a very long time. What you pulled off last week was typical of the last 7 years of subterfuge and chaos. One of the things that's going to be very important to hear from you during your reports. Commissioner Jackson has told me in one-on-one conversations she does not believe there is even an investigation into the extortion. The mayor has made the same statement in the press. That would be very interesting to hear from you if you actually have information that would help us. We need to move forward from this, and you're acting in skullduggery and planning tonight to fire Manager Rollison, which I suspect you will now put aside, that has been brought out, is an example of exactly how not to run a village. We deserve better. You owe it to us. We gave you our support. We gave you our trust. You need to trust us back and tell us what's really going on here. Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Lynn Ragusa, 1865 Kennedy Causeway, Kennedy House, North Bay Village. I think there's a lot of misdirected anger here tonight. There's the razzle-dazzle of look over here and look over here. And I've been through all of that because I live at the Kennedy House. And you all know about the Kennedy House. This is like a miniature version of the Kennedy House and the stuff that we've been through over there. People see through what's going on here. There's a lot of distraction. I don't know any of you personally. I've met some of you more than others. I don't know you at all, Commissioner Alvarez. You're like a ghost. Commissioner Lim, you've been a voice in the community recently, and I appreciate that. You've been disrespected tonight, and I don't appreciate that, Madam Mayor. You were very disrespectful to bring up the so-called dirt and not give an answer. Like you always don't give an answer. Commissioner Hornsby, your name has been dragged through the mud. Commissioner Jackson, you've promised an answer. I really, really had hopes of hearing an explanation that you promised to give the constituents on the firing of the village attorney. I want to ask you, only because you had made that statement, do you feel that you personally were misguided by the attorney? And if so, can you give us an example? It was stated by Madam Mayor that he misguided some of you or all of you. That would imply malpractice. A lot of implications are made. The turnout tonight has a lot to do with the voters and the constituents wanting an explanation for this and to protest the rumored firing of the village manager, Rollison. The commission, which we felt was literally hiding behind the TV screen, that looked very bad. People know there are political careers being planned and made behind closed doors. Deals are being done. As you make your plans, and you as individuals and as a body, keep in mind that you serve the people. When you ignore people in the community like Mr. Veriker, when you have division and contention on the DS, the voters are concerned. I urge all of you voters to do as I plan. Do not vote for anyone who motions or supports a motion to fire the village manager, which could also possibly lead to the firing of our police chief. If it didn't affect so many people, it would be laughable how predictable these meetings are. Just like the Kennedy House, riddled with corruption from El Pequeño Dictator that we have over there. The mayor ignores and avoids answering questions from her constituents. May I remind the DS she is going away soon. Don't follow her cowardice. She instead tries to embarrass Mr. Lim by pulling out the so-called dirt about the Ethics Commission and disrespects everyone here. I oppose the firing of Frank Rollison. I had a problem with what happened at the Kennedy House, but I've let that go. I don't support that. And I voice my support 100% for the police chief. It's up to each of you to remove the dark clouds of doubt hanging over the village. The mayor herself is under investigation, and the results of which are eagerly anticipated. And I hope that those results are read publicly at a similar meeting. I look forward to the police chief, Carlos Noriega, taking us forward to a brighter day without the corruption and doubt that Mayor Craps has brought against our village. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Mario Garcia, 7540 Cutlass Avenue. As you know that I've been laying low and I try not to get involved anymore. It's unbelievable what I'm hearing, okay? This is not about justification or the reasons that you had to fire the village lawyer. However, if it lacks process, then we know better than a dictatorship, all right? So I too come from Cuba, running from a government that did things behind doors. And I certainly don't want to see it in my village. So we have to be upfront. And to say that we need to get rid of our manager, that's crazy. Did you forget already the past manager that we had? And a police chief? Then you're really losing your mind. Because do we remember Irma? What all these people did? Sanitation, the police department, the manager. These people were there day and night, fighting for our village. And now there's rumors you want to get rid of these people? I'm sorry, I happen to agree that there's got to be some kind of a sunshine law being broken here, because these pieces don't come together on their own and separately. It must have been planned. So please, please, let's act like we are in the United States. Thank you.
Dico, è gratis, I'm here till 2 o'clock you put your taxes down. Because everybody leave at 11 o'clock. Okay, a few. Because if the plan of the manager was to put the $330,000, we are in the cap.
Okay.
If you are so happy with him, stay to the home.
Mr. Toro, you need to
Okay.
speak to the microphone.
Let me
Unless,
You need to address the commission.
Mr. Toro, you have to address the commission.
That's the reason
Mr.
we have
Toro.
freedom. We have freedom.
Mr. Toro,
That's it.
Mr. Torrego, you want to speak again? Go ahead. She already spoke? Oh, but she didn't put good and welfare.
Very quick.
She didn't
So
put
the gentleman from Cuba speak twice, right? I would like to know from the new city attorney if that's the normal procedure in this section of the meeting, that somebody can speak twice.
Sir, I answer questions coming from the
Okay,
commission.
so well, I want to know in the future, because it looks like that we got a supporter and he can speak twice, then I can, and I appreciate it, you know what I mean? That's not something that I never saw it,
I'm letting anybody that wants to speak.
because otherwise this is going to be forever. Everybody speak.
Well, then they want to speak, I'm letting you speak.
Okay.
Miss Blake, I apologize, but you didn't fill out the topic, and you already spoke, and I thought you had already spoken.
I thought I checked, couldn't look. Okay, my name is Jane Blake, and I still survive. Yes, I survived in North Bay Island. And welcome our interim city attorney. As I said before, I looked at your resume, and the only thing that I just didn't see was that you have served as a city attorney. You've done incredible things, but not that. So my concern is whether during your time here, you have the experience to handle our day-to-day legal work, as our past village attorneys have, and also do you have the competent backup staff to handle our village properly? Because we always know that we've looked for firms. I also want to address maybe one of Mr. Lim's, Vice Mayor Lim's complaints that was sent in about him. Septic tanks. There are many septic tanks in the village of North Bay Village. It didn't just happen over there at that condominium. It happened to my neighbor. And Mr. Rollison handled it. If you do some kind of search, and I don't know what it is, you're going to find out more homes aren't connected to septic tanks, and possibly all those older condominiums on Harbor Island, figure out how many they aren't connected to our sewer lines. So to bring him up for that is just like ridiculous. Anyway, I'm waiting to see which of you on the dais will give our manager the right to advertise for a village attorney who has experience, qualifications, and recommendations from other cities or municipalities. And I want to thank those on the Community Enhancement Board for choosing our holiday decorations, and they were up in time. Why were they up in time? Because Mr. Rollison, our village manager, came here after midnight and made sure that each of the poles were changed out from what was done before to something so that they could be lit. So I don't know where you're going to ever find another village manager who not only will leave his home anytime to come out in the middle of the night to check out something that he knows is important to somebody who wants these decorations up in time. He also somehow got involved in creating a metal menorah. That's something that's amazing because it's going to last for years and we're going to own it. Well, we pay, to put up these decorations, we pay a fee. I have many questions regarding the November 14th commission meeting, especially the way, unfortunately, It wasn't on the agenda, as has been said, and I really don't think, I think the mayor was very weak in her reasoning because you never gave, if you did, okay, if you gave, I just want to finish, please, because of my tongue. In other words, did you ever put Mr. Switkus on notice that he wasn't performing something that you thought was important? You need to put somebody on notice before you, and that has to be in the public, on an agenda. You just tell them, you know, I'm very disappointed in this. I wish you had done that. Therefore, I'm putting you on notice. And, you know, it's always been agenda. So that's why the residents feel, you know, this was done in, we've seen it on TV. I can pull it up in a second. So I hope that all of you who voted to fire our previous village attorney in the manner without giving him probation. You could have put him on probation. You put other people on probation. That's what a commissioner does. They tell their hired employees, tell Yvonne, what has she done wrong? I don't think anything personally. So I apologize for taking up more than my
Thank
time.
you.
But thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak?
Hello, Cecilia Veloz, 7504 Bounty Avenue. So I want to make touch on two subjects here. The firing of Mr. Switkus. I'm not going to argue with you or ask you. I don't know why you fired him. Actually, what I do know is that the procedure in which you went about has led a lot of us to wonder why you did it and what's really going on behind closed doors. If you look at the video the night of, there's only one person on this dais that was shocked, and it was Dr. Hornsby. That I found very interesting. So it's not why you fired him, it's how you've done it. And also, I did speak with Ms. Jackson about this, and she said there was an issue about transparency, which I find ironic that that's one of the things that is why he was fired, when there was no transparency, and all of a sudden he was fired at midnight when no one knows anything. So I find that odd. In any case, as far as Mr. Rollison goes, this village would be lost without Mr. Rollison. Mr. Rollison is the one that makes this village function. You have a problem? We had a problem during the hurricane. My husband sent Mr. Rollison an email and asked him about the piles, the wood piles, whatever. And he said, you know what, I'll go by there. He went out on a Sunday to come check out our pile and tell us what to do with our pile. Who else is going to do that? Madam Mayor, during the hurricane, no one heard from you for I think it was over a week. Your excuse was you had no electricity and no internet. Well, guess what? No one else did either. But the person that was there was Mr. Rollison. And he's always been there for us. If you ask him anything, when I came up here a year and a half ago, my first time up here, to complain about the cats, he followed up with me and we started doing something about it. Madam Mayor, when you were campaigning, we asked you about the cats. You didn't know what to do with the cats. When we come for the budget meetings, you ask any question, we refer it over to Mr. Rollison. He has the answers to everything. When we had the meeting here for the FP&L burying the lines, the only person that knew what was going on was Mr. Rollison. And you even came to my door to talk about scheduling the meeting for the FP&L wine burying meeting, which I think may have been you initiated that. When you came to my door, I knew more about burying the lines than you did. And when I sat here in this crowd asking questions about burying the lines, no one knew anything. The only one that knew was Mr. Rollison. So I really think that you need to really consider what you're doing. This village functions, and the two best things this village has is Mr. Rollison and our police department. And without those two entities, or those people, those departments, we are nothing here. Because these two people do more for this village than all of you guys put together. Thank you.
Anybody else wants to speak before I close? Okay, good and welfare is closed. Grand Riders report, is Lakeisha here? No, right? No.
No, Mayor, I suggested that 3A comes after the good and welfare.
Okay,
So
3A.
before the Grand Rider gives a report, she's not there.
3A. You have 3A? What's 3A? You don't have
So
3A.
three, I read it early on. There's two topics. The city manager.
Did you have information on it?
Yeah, I'm gonna just do a
It's
little
not on the
preamble
agenda.
here.
It,
Well, it was addition.
it was added
It was
in
added on-
additions and
on
deletions, you all
additions and
voted on
deletions.
it. To do two items under three, 1 and 2.
That's right. I said it earlier.
Okay, I didn't.
I just thought you had documentation.
There's nothing here.
No, it's not. It's an addition.
Yeah,
But I'll
I'm
just
not
give you
sure
the preamble.
I'm not sure that we took
It's
a vote.
fine.
Hold on a minute. Madam Clerk, did we take a vote?
You don't think we need a vote to do it?
For additions and deletions?
Oh, we need that
Vice
already.
Mayor, you have the floor.
Okay, the first one is 3A would be subject to city manager. A lot has been spoken by the people here already. The past several weeks after the November abrupt firing of the city attorney, Mr. Robert Soikis, it happens when I was away at the National League of City annual conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. Subsequent to that, social media has been abuzz with speculation that we may see a repeat of tonight, following the November 14th vote. This public outcry is pretty obvious here. People are very unhappy, and I owe it to the resident to bring this up again. For the sake of transparency, I have here a thick dossier about what Frank has accomplished. There's also a list of all he's accomplished, single spacing, starting from 2014, 2015, 2016.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor, is this an item that we're gonna be voting on?
No, I'm just wondering.
Or is this
Yes,
something that should
I'm
be
gonna
done in
be
your
saying-
report?
Let me finish, and I'll get to it.
Vice Mayor, I think
Madam Mayor?
it should be in your
This is
report.
an item on the agenda that was added on the additions and deletions by the Vice Mayor.
Why is it so hard to?
It's a discussion item and not an item
Do we need
to
to
be
take a
voted
vote?
on. No.
I'm going to make a suggestion here to cut it real short. If there's any commissioners here tonight with any comments that they want to make regarding the city manager, they should do it now. If not, this subject is closed. There's no further discussion about city manager being fired or whatever. I'm asking all the city commissioners here, if you have anything to comment, and it's not a vote, it's a volunteer. If you want to say something about the city manager, you want to bring it up regarding his, whether he stays or he doesn't stay, please make that comment right now.
Doesn't this really come in our, the commissioner's report?
I don't know, I'm gonna let the attorney, guide us here because we've been losing here direction.
Vice Mayor, are you right now asking for a vote of confidence for the city manager? That's what it sounds like.
So that would be the appropriate terms to
Okay,
use.
so why don't you propose that you're requesting right now a vote of confidence for
I would like to make,
yeah, I understand, we'll get to it. Why don't, if that's what your intent is with this discussion item, you can request that that there be a vote of confidence from the board concerning the city manager. And if they want to do that, as commissioners, they can certainly choose to do that. Or if you choose to set it for some other time, you can do that also.
no, let's redo it now. So I'll be making a motion. I'll be inviting the commissioners here to state vote of confidence in the city manager.
We have a discussion.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second. That's not good.
The motion is to take a vote that they have a vote of confidence on the city manager to continue as the city manager.
I'll second it for discussion.
Anybody would like to, say anything?
Yes, I'd like to speak in favor of.
The item wasn't on the agenda, so I don't have anything to say.
Just like now, November 14th, it was on the agenda.
Well, if I may, Madam Chair, I think there's some fundamental confusion about what's required under the Sunshine Law. And this is month to month, so in that regard, I can say exactly how it is. Under the Florida law, there is no requirement that any specific item be noticed on the agenda. what is required under Florida law is that there actually be a notice of a public meeting, which is what was done. The village charter gives the commission the right to hire and fire the manager and the city attorney at their discretion. Now, excuse me? Certainly, no, I don't want to include Yvonne, but it wants to lose Yvonne. So, to the extent that that's what's required under Florida law, to the extent that you all right now want to add on the agenda a vote of confidence for the manager, there's nothing prohibited under the Sunshine Law to do that. So if there's a motion to do that, and it's accepted, you guys can proceed if there's a majority that's willing to do that tonight.
Could you explain to us, Mr. City Attorney, the ramifications of voting for a vote of confidence?
A vote of confidence is just that. Whether you have confidence in the manager or not, it's not a vote to either hire or fire the manager. It's just an expression of whether or not you're confident in what he's doing.
Thank you.
We have a motion and we have a second,
For discussion.
but I need to open it to public comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Mr. Village Attorney? Open for public comment. Anybody would like to speak on the item? Mr. Barricker?
Kevin Barricker, used to live at 7520 Hispaniola Avenue, feel like I live here now. The vote of confidence is an excellent idea. Possibly, next to Richard Tivoni and Ray Trujillo, Frank Rollison is the person I fight with the most in this village, and he's generally wrong. Nevertheless, he is open to discussion, to ideas, and to moving the village forward with the residents. So if you talk about a vote of confidence from the guy who may be the most cynical guy in North Bay Village, Mr. Rollison has my confidence. You've all seen the letter from the Fraternal Order of Police. Mr. Rollison has their confidence. I would suggest that even goes a bit deeper because he has worked with and helped our police chief be astonishingly successful, taking a department and changing it nearly overnight. So I think it's very good that you hold this vote of confidence because you know what? It's time to stop whispering to each other. Bring it out. If the three of you are going to fire him, do it now. Do it in front of everyone. Have some courage for a change. Stop running this like it was the Mean Girls Club, a remake awful. This is just not the way to run the government. So yeah, Mr. Rollison has our confidence. Why don't you earn ours? Do it. Bring it up. Talk about it. Don't sit there and pretend you're confused because a new item came up. It didn't shock you last month. So go ahead. I suggest tonight you have this discussion and make your decision, either a vote of confidence or do what you were planning to do. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Blake?
Jane Blake, North Bay Island. You know, people make fun of Yvonne, but not because of her ability. They don't make fun of her, of course not. They, like our Mr. Powell said, we would never, right? Somebody said we would never want to bring up to fire Yvonne. Commissioner Jackson, when she first ran, and she won't admit it, but she called me a racist. I have it in print. So there's something that just doesn't feel right. Yvonne and I have known each other, 30 years, whatever, however you've been here, and Ray, has come up. We're going to come to 28 years now. And Mr. Powell and Commissioner Jackson, there's just something that doesn't look right to me. It just doesn't look right to me. And I don't mean any ill will by that. I absolutely do not. So I suggest that you raise your hand and talk tonight, please, Commissioner Alvarez. We called you, you never called us back, you never gave us a reason. Talk tonight and give a vote of confidence. That's all. We never heard from you. Just raise your hand. Tonight, be open. Talk to the citizens. This is on TV. This is going to be on the late night news. Just open your voices and talk.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Dr. Schiavone?
For the record again, Richard Schiavone, 7601 Center Bay Drive. And no, I have not fought more with Kevin than I fought with Frank Rollison. If there's somebody in this city that I fought with, it's Frank Rollison. But I want to know which of the five of you is going to step up and do any of the projects that are pending to be done. Whether it's the South Park by Grandview Plaza, the North Park, the Baywalk, enforce the Baywalk on the condos. Let's talk about the dog park that the residents want that we have no space. The Seppi property, Socorro property, City Hall, infrastructure, power lines. What about sea level rise that you never mentioned? You're all quiet about sea level rise. At least $50 million worth. My taxes went up because the five of you voted for taxes to go up last year. I lowered them. Why? Because I sat in a room and I fought with Mr. Olson. And I brought it here in the dais when I was a commissioner. If you have the guts to stand up and fire that gentleman, you have to have the guts to tell me why you're firing him. Give me one good reason. Madam Mayor, you and I have not spoken for at least 6 years. I'm not your pushover boy. I was never your pushover boy. When I wanted to fire Dennis Kelly, I said it in public. I stated why he needed to be fired in public. You opposed me, if you remember correctly. And Commissioner Lim, you were with her in that one. The two of you, it was a 2-2 tie, me and Sue Blumberg. If you remember correctly, we stated it in public. We don't do things behind the scenes. You like to do things behind the scenes, Madam Mayor. I know how you function. Thank you.
Mr. Blake?
Al Blake, North Bay Island. Just a little history of the village. We've been here over 50 years. I served for 15 years on the commission. I served for another 25 years on the boards in the city. I certainly have seen many, many city managers come and go throughout the years. As I mentioned to you before, we had one for 15 years when I was on the commission. Actually, 14 years, was changed that to the year. I know all of you must meet with Frank up in his office, at least I do, just to see how the city's going. And I have never seen a man have this thing so set up in order and so ready to go for each thing by each time when it comes up. And he's got it totally coordinated. It's wonderful. I feel so comfortable knowing that this man is overseeing this city. And to think that the five of you would even consider removing him is beyond, especially since the mayor brought him in. In fact, I really questioned her, to be honest. Says, where'd you find him? I mean, where's he coming from? And that took us a little while until we got to know him. He's been wonderful. He's what keeps this city together. He doesn't pull crap like this commission did. He tells it like it is, and he does what he's supposed to do. That's his job. And he's not afraid of being fired. I don't think he is, at least. He's never appeared that way to me. He does what he thinks is right for this city. And I applaud him for that. Even when he and I, almost like Kevin just said, don't always agree with everything. But that's okay. Because we can agree to disagree because we're all looking for the right thing. What's best for this village. So, I mean, I agree with what Richard just said. Speak up tonight. We're here. We're your residents. We have a whole room full. Please, Commissioner Jackson, talk to us. Please, Mayor, talk to us. Eddie Lim, you've spoken to us. Jose, I walked and talked with you for 4 months to bring you on that commission. And I can't hear anything from you. I don't hear any voice from you at all. You didn't even return the call to your buddy across the street. I mean, what is this? This is unheard of. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Mario Garcia, 7540 Cutlass Avenue. Yes, Mr. Powell, attorney, this is real. This is like a nightmare, what you're seeing here. Look, most likely we can do away with meetings for 3 or 4 months. We can probably do away with the whole commission. But certainly I don't think anyone in this village wants to live with the cloud of knowing that we may get rid of our city manager or we may get rid of our chief. The village, the people, the residents, I believe that I can speak in behalf of them. We need to put this to rest. We need to know that our village is going to be protected by our police officers with the right people in command, and we know that we have to have a manager that will continue to care for the needs of this village. I, for one, do not want this cloud over my head. We like to put this to rest today and put our fears to rest. You owe it to us. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. No more hiding behind the microphone and the desk. Please, please take action today, tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Torrego?
For the record, Luis Torrego, 7611 Santa Fe Drive. Full support to the city manager. I think city can improve, and we discuss it. Full access, unbelievable. It's something unreal and unheard of. Super guy, smart, and very committed to the city. Now, you can fire him, and you're in your right. And we elected you, so we will pay the consequences. The only thing for real right now, and that is a fact, is that most of the people in this room would like to know if you support the city manager or not. That's the only thing we're asking for you guys. It's not that difficult. So just go, run it, do the vote, and that's it. And everybody can go back to sleep or do their own things, and then that will be it. I think you really owe that to us, to vote and to get that thing on the air. And if you want to fire him, that's okay. There's nothing we can do about it. But you should really do it right now. We're waiting for you guys, and I believe that you should do it for us. So that's it. Thank you.
Again, Tim Dennis, 7910 Harbor Island Drive. You heard me once before. Again, I sent the letter out before. I've only been here a short time. I'm here months. And I've never seen such ineffectiveness from any commission board that I've ever been. I work in a retail development company, and I go through boards like water in cities throughout this state. Okay? And the way that we run things here is amazing. I'm surprised anything ever gets done. The only way things get done is because of this city manager. And that's it. That's all I got to say.
Goodwin, I think you wanted to speak.
Gudrun Wolgert, 7517 Cutlass Avenue. Madam Mayor, I just want to remind you, you stopped me once and you told me if you want to leave something behind that you are being remembered by the city and by the residents. I call you to that promise, please.
You can come up.
Lynn Ragusa, still the Kennedy House, 1865 Kennedy Causeway. It's interesting that she mentioned promises that were made during the campaign. I happen to recall a conversation where I approached you when you were campaigning this last time, Madam Mayor, and I actually shook your hand and told you gladly why I did not vote for you. And that was because you did not keep your campaign promises. Regardless of that, a large segment of this community feels that the firing or proposed firings that we're discussing are part of the mayor's efforts to get rid of anyone who opposes her, just like a little dictatorship that we've discussed before. She throws dirt at everyone to distract from the investigation against herself, which you're strangely silent on. The sewer issue with Mr. Lim is a bunch of crap. Nobody cares. It's small potatoes. We don't care about the sewer issue. And to bring it up is laughable. It's a distraction from what we are really here concerned about. Accountability is a word that the mayor perhaps needs to familiarize herself with, and it's a word that we all expect all of the members of the Diaz to be familiar with. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak? Nancy?
Good evening. My name is Nancy Sonnet Selwyn. I live at 7512 Cutlass Avenue. I'm totally embarrassed about how this commission has acted and the things that they've done. And this is the lowest of the low. Now you're debating about whether or not to take a vote in front of your constituents, the residents, and there's obviously hesitation. I'm disappointed in some people, extremely disappointed. The city manager has done a lot of good for the city. I know he's been there to help me out when I've had problems or when there have been problems that I've noticed and reported to him. The police chief has been really terrific for the city to try to get at firing him through firing the manager is despicable. Like I said, it's embarrassing. And one other thing I want to throw in, since I wasn't here earlier to mention about it, we have guidelines in the charter and in the code of ordinances about what the qualifications are for an attorney to work as the city attorney. And from what I heard, I don't think that this person, although he may be a wonderful attorney, I don't think he meets the qualifications. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak? Public comment is closed. Any comments from the dais?
I'd like to speak in support of the mayor, of the city manager.
Okay, so listen.
First time I met the city manager, he was standing on the back of my deck running a crime watch meeting because the crime watch person didn't show up. And he warned us, said, we have such problems in our infrastructure that all the politicians sitting on the dais up there have been kicking down the road for decades, that our city is rotting from the inside. That if we don't do something, we can't build anymore. There's going to be a moratorium that stops us from building in this city. Anybody wants to sell their house around here, they know that means your house drops in value a lot. Because the guy next door builds his house, sells his house, they tear it down and build something bigger, and everybody else's house value goes up. If you want to sell your house, but nobody can build, you can't sell it. So you took about a third of the quality of the price of your price right off the top. 25%, that's for a lot of us, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and for others, more. It's been irresponsible to not do that. And he said, it has to be done. I feel like the Dutch boy in the dike. When you were a little boy, you heard this story about the Dutch boy put his finger in the dike. I've been standing up here putting my finger in the dike because I know that the objective of the mayor, stated many, many times, is to get rid of the city manager and fire the whole bunch and clear the mayor. Oh, clean house. And I quote. And she said it in public. That's the whole point. Somebody's got to stand up and say, we've got to have city government that works. And we can't keep kicking it down the road. He's done a great job doing this. He saved our fire department. First of all, it's millions of dollars because he pulled a piece of paper, and we all went over to protest at the Little Haiti, and we had the commission, the mayor there for this county and everybody's protesting, and we all don't know what to do, and we're trying to get attention to us, and he pulls a piece of paper out of his hand, and he says, "Mr. Mayor," and he calls it Frank. "Yeah, Frank." I said, "Well, I got this piece of paper that says you've got to do it." He said, "Okay, we'll live up to our obligations." I remember being at that meeting with Alf and Jane and my wife and a lot of people here. Here's a piece of paper, because he has decades of experience. He knows how the thing works. He presses a button. He knows what to do. That's gone on now. We've got great reports coming up on what the water treatments have, how that's going, and we paid the money, we paid the price. And I'm sitting here with my finger in the dike. I'm the Dutch boy. I'm not important. He's the most important person in the city. We're an advisory board. We're civilians. I don't have any political ambition. Believe me, this has been hard. They didn't fund it because it's been difficult. But when you fire the city manager, you're decapitating the city. You are just destroying the city. You take your people will leave. When you in Alabama this past week, they fired a man by the name of Roy Moore. This man was so awful. He was against the 13th and 14th Amendments. He thought slavery was okay. And he was against the 19th Amendment. Thought women should not have the right to vote. And his pretty good evidence, or at least his rumor, that he's a predator of young girls. And he was fired, and he lost the election to a man who ran as a judge and defeated the guys who were the KKK who killed the girls in the Birmingham church in 1963. And it took them 50, 60 years to get it done. And they only did it by that much. You got to stand up and do it. You got to stand up, put your finger in the dike, and take your chance. And I feel like this person was backed by our president, or let me say the man in the White House. He should. There was a political expediency to keep control of the Senate. Does it sound familiar? So it's political expedient. This guy's going to back this guy. They're going to get rid of him no water. But it took that much for the people of Alabama to do that. Well, that's how I feel about what happened last month. You know, Trump's down there being investigated by Mr. Mueller. And you fire the man who reported you. I had to bring my complaint to the authorities of the city and tell them people are coming out. I can't talk about it. I'm sorry. My attorney's here. I can't talk about it. But I think that that's a very good analogy. That you just can't fire the man who turned you in. He's doing his job. And I think, and I can't have an opinion on any legal things here. And I do regret that Mr. Swickus mentioned anything about anybody here. I do not excuse that because that's part of the investigation. I don't accuse anybody. I can't. That's the police work. And it took them 60 years to get it right in Alabama. Just give us a little time. Let the police do their work. And Mr. Manager, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've told you every month, if you don't do right, I'll vote to fire you. I think I've told you that more than 20 times. And I will go with it. But I'll stand here and take the crap. Pardon me. On television. Because it's necessary price you pay. This isn't fun for me. This isn't for the money. It isn't for the fame. This is really tough. But it's the right thing to do. Mr. Verga was against us when and the previous city attorney said it's a bad thing to do to stop, have an ordinance against coercing people that they can't change their gender. They can't change they can't be forced into changing their sexual orientation. And we took a stand on that. It's an ordinance, and the city attorney said, don't do it because it's risky because we can get sued. Sometimes you got to do the right thing. And it was the right thing to do, and keeping the city manager is the right thing to do. And I think the board does not desert him, that maybe they have other reasons for what happened before. Let them speak. The commissioners report to talk, but I think they ought to both keep Mr. Swickus in. Mrs. Witness, pardon, Mr. City Manager. Yeah, I can't endorse him any higher. Thank you.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I just want to conclude before we take the vote of confidence, to read two letters. One is from the FOP, addressed to all the members of the village commissioners. The members of North Bay Village Fraternal Order Lodge 81 would like you to accept this letter of absolute support for our village manager, Mr. Frank Rolson. The FOP has always a very professional, positive, and productive working relationship with Mr. Rolson over the past several years. Mr. Rolson has done many things, not only for your police department, but also for the residents of North Bay Village. His efforts and support has ensured that North Bay Village Police Department is among the best trained and equipped law enforcement agencies in Miami-Dade County. Furthermore, Mr. Rolson was the key figure in our members being able to obtain a fair labor contract after various failed attempts with previous village managers. Mr. Rolson has always been very accessible and responsive to our needs and concerns. He has an open door policy and has always gone above and beyond for our members. The FOP, Fraternal Order of Police, would like to continue a positive and productive relationship not only with the village manager, but with all the members of the village commission. Therefore, we are asking for your continued support from the village manager as well. The second last letter, real quick, this is from Mr. Tim Dennis, and he has mentioned this letter a bit, but I'm going to read it real quick, 4 paragraphs. North Bay Village has made some amazing steps towards forward in the past several years, and much of that has been due to the able leadership of the city manager, Mr. Frank Rolson. I have worked in several South Florida cities over the past 30 years as the Director of Operations for large retail developers, such as the largest mall in the country, Sawgrass. In my capacity, I've had numerous dealings with multiple city administrators and managers. It is not difficult for me to say that Mr. Frank Rolson is one of the best city managers I've dealt with. As a resident, I have found Frank accessible, helpful, highly effective, and always on the job. His support on neighborhood issues has been strong. We can count on him to assist us in moving the city in the right direction. North Bay Village needs a city manager who has the ability to think through issues and guide the board to inform and intelligent decisions. Frank's experience, breadth of knowledge, and his thorough understanding and the context throughout the state and county governments gives our city administration such guidance, not to mention a treasure trove of valuable resources and information. He's truly an asset to the city, which we should be proud to say that he works for us. During Frank's tenure, he has made us safer, ensuring that our city's law enforcement has a collective bargaining agreement that works for both. He has worked with the chief to ensure that they employ modern equipment, police tactics, and training regimen are up to date. I have not seen a police force more in tune with its residents, nor with high morale than what we enjoy here in North Bay Village. I've never felt safer than I do here. Last paragraph, it's not just with the police that Frank's experience has had tremendous benefits. Frank has been invaluable in securing approval for storm drainage approval grants, loan eligibility approval for the water meter replacement program, saving the fire truck pumper, you may call that, which serves the city, due diligence for the new city hall project. These are just a few of the benefits that Frank's experience provides. And there are numerous more examples to cite, but this list of accomplishment and leadership and commitment is very long.
Vice Mayor, can I ask a question?
Please.
How many members of the FOP? Do you know?
I do not know how many members there are. It's Lodge 81.
And do you know how many members were included in the letter?
I have no idea. What's that got to do with the letter? It's a letter officially on the letterhead of FOP. So obviously he has the endorsement of every member.
Because I think there are about 27 of them and only 7 of them.
Does it really matter?
Well, yes, it does, because the majority didn't want to put their name in.
Let's just take the vote.
Since it's sort of anticlimactic after my last, take away my commissioner's report, I'm sure there are reasons that people voted for the removal of Mr. Strickles. But we really don't want to decapitate ourselves because Mr. Allison, during the past Irma, delayed everything, including the investigation, delayed everything, and we're all living harum-scarum without electricity and anything else. And the mayor's getting calls, it's burning up her, they call her, they don't call me. But everybody was upset. We were starving, we were living in heat, and we had the junk on the street, and people were going crazy. So we got to come in there, and I'd gone to a meeting with, I knocked on his door and I said, look, what are we going to do about this? He says, well, you know, this is how it works. And it's like, I'm in medical school again, and the guy right behind me, it's a chapter right behind me, because after Mr. Alston explained it to me, and then the mayor comes in and says the same thing. We've got to do something. We've got to do something, but remember, we're civilians. We're not professionals. So Mr. City Manager says, well, we do it this way, we can save $900,000. But it'll be dirty for a while. But we do it this way, we save $900,000 because we have to take the money out of the money that's got to be automatically be replenished. That'll raise our millage rate by how much, Mr.? 0.9? That's a lot of money that goes in your taxes until we pay it back. And it wasn't anything other than he knew how it works. And he was working it. And he'd already been ahead of the game and trying to get it done for several years, and he had the answer for us. I've opined many times to the mayor, look, he's your guy. This is the guy that's come. He's doing a great job. He's going to do a great job. Take the credit. You'll have, you can, I promise you, my wife will tell you, I'll make you queen and we'll put up a monument for you. But let the man do his job. Thank you.
Well, you know, I'm going to talk. I'm going to say something. Usually I bring the file because I do have a file. We have about 30 people here tonight. We have about 9,000 residents. Mr. Robertson, you tell me we have about 9,000? You are all for the manager, and I all support you wholeheartedly. But you're not inside here to see what's going on. Okay? You come in from the outside for a little bit, and he's nice to you, and he's pleasant, and he caters to you. But you don't know what's going on inside here. You don't. Okay? And I have, you know what? Unfortunately, I don't want to embarrass the man. The Herald is here. Well, it wasn't my intention. He brought it up, so I had to say it. And there were 3 residents that called me the next day after the meeting, or the budget meeting, to ask me if it was a conflict of interest, that we were voting for the item on the agenda, on the budget for the Optimist Club. At the time, I still think I was still a member of the Optimist. And I did write a general question to the Ethics Commission about the item. I did not mention names. However, Mr. Centurino called me up a day later and questioned me. Okay? So I had to tell him that it was an item that was on the agenda. Yes, it was sponsored by the Vice Mayor. I was a member. I wasn't sure if Commissioner Alvarez was a member. And were we failing on any type of regulation or law regarding giving money to the Optimist Club? He said it was a violation, and he took it to account. I did not contact Ethics Commission purposely to complain about my colleague. But I can tell you that plenty of times in the years that Mr. Robertson has been here, him and ex-Commissioner Gonzalez, who's sitting back there, and ex-Commissioner Richard Chaboni spent plenty of time sending complaints about it. Frivolous complaints. Okay? So, frivolous complaints because I was never found guilty. Ever. I normally bring a big file I have of issues and incidents that I've had with the manager. I didn't tonight. So I don't know why you all created all of this. I don't know why he went out recruiting people to come and speak on his behalf and write letters. All right. Did you want me to hear my side? Did you want to hear me talk? Because I think that's what you told me to talk, right? To tell you. So I'm talking. Okay. All right. And I like what Dr. Hornsby said, Commissioner Hornsby, because his wife spent a year and a half calling me every day, 6 and 7 times a day, to complain about the manager, how sarcastic he was, how disrespectful he was, how mean he was. Okay? That's no secret. Okay? How she asked him about disrespectful to women in general. Okay? And your neighbor across the street, next door, the left, she had plenty of complaints to say about Mr. Rolerson's treatment to her and how disrespectful he was. Marley? Okay, yeah, she had plenty of complaints because she called me and I spoke to her. Okay, let's stop here. Let's stop here. What should I do now?
You call the question.
Call the question.
Mayor Cornelia Brooks,
No.
Vice Mayor Eddie Lim,
We're voting for the motion, right?
Yes.
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 Commissioner Angela Jackson,
Yes.